that's how it works, right?
You've told me some of it, and I've written some of it down, and I think we've got some recordings of it. Um, so,
Well, the basic gist is I went and researched how cities get found.
uh-huh.
And so Traytown is based upon all these factors that I read about how settlements get found. So if you can imagine a natural meeting place where different paths converge and tribes and people start trading a certain place seasonally, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a trapper in the mountains and I'm a fisherman, and every fall we meet near the mountains where I work and sort of near the ocean where I am. And we meet halfway, we trade fish for pelts. And you're my brother-in-law, we're in the same tribe. I'm trapping animals and you're fishing. And our other part of the thing is hunter-gatherers, and they get deer meat. And this other guy goes west and comes back following the mammoths. And we all meet in the fall and have a party and trade. So the whole idea is, um, why is New York City New York City? Well, it's everything from the continent and then everything from the ocean, and
Mm-hmm.
everything meets there. So Trade is where all these caravans and ships and land stuff and the dwarves come up from the mountains and they all meet in Trade. That's why it's there. And it's a big circular market because the caravans used to get together and the trade people used to get together and the wagons, and they could circle the wagons and make a big encampment. That's why it's a circle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the basic gist of Trade
Okay.
and it's run. It's a mercantile focused city, run by merchants for merchants. Okay, nominally there is a puppet, you know, local dude. Okay, royalty, but the reason that Templeton is separate because there's also this travel and migrants and people going to different pilgrimages and things is they don't want all the machinations of all the churches involved in city politics. So they have their own thing over there. There's no, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
There's no churches or temples in the city. You know? And law enforcement in Trayton is all about keeping the peace and making money. It's not necessarily about the public good or whatever. It's let's keep things good for business. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, tell me about the shanties. What are the shanties?
Well, the shanties, if you imagine the two rivers meeting and then going out to the sea,
Uh-huh.
that triangular thing of land is where Trade Town is. And then as you go up the triangular piece of land gets wider as the two rivers diverge, there's hills and then mountains. So there's a northern boundary of there. So the protected, nice farmland north of the city, the Shire type areas there, farms and all that. And then there's a northern border where the hills are.
Gotcha.
To the east, you have the horse tribes, right? And caravans come through
Uh-huh.
from the east. On the west, and then Templeton's also on the eastern bank for all the pilgrims from coming on the river and they go on the Great Road and everyone goes to these temples and things. So they have Templeton there, which has temples all the major gods, and all people going on pilgrimages can stop there, And on the western side, though, is far to the west. You have the Old Kingdoms. Think of the Old Kingdoms as like the Holy Roman Empire and all the ticky tacky, old decadent European countries. are the old kingdoms. So there's analogs for the English, analogs for the Italians. It's Gothic and gaudy and, the old world, the old kingdoms. And the new princes are nearer there, and they're also arguing about things, and there's fighting going on, and little principalities. And then there's the actual frontier with Trayton. So on the banks that's there, the shanties, which is a totally unofficial sort of boom town outside the authority of Trayton. Right?
Okay.
So official, big, regular trade is the big, huge merchant houses of Trayton. To the west of it are the shanties, which is the unregulated boom town, Shitsville, that has risen up there. It benefits Trayton to have a skankier place to go to.
Mm-hmm.
The low rent district, if you will. And there is a lot of warehousing and migrant labor and things like that, legitimate things that happen in the shanties. But there's also where all of the illegal trade and of things happen. And it happens under the sideward glance of the city. The shanties are close enough that they're de facto buffer area defense / under the protection of Trayton.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really under the total authority of Trayton, officially. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's sort of like you have the Grateful Dead concert, but then you have what happens in the parking lot.
Uh-huh.
So when you go to a Grateful Dead concert, part of the draw is the parking lot, right? All the fucking crazy people and the weird shit that happens and all the stuff that gets bought and sold in the parking lot.
Uh-huh, for sure.
Now, do the Grateful Dead know about it? Yes. Do they condone it? Meh. Okay. Does it add to the experience? Is it a symbiotic relationship? Yes. Okay. And in much the same way, it serves a purpose.
Gotcha.
So it's the low rent district. It's where the warehousing there, the ships, the river boat guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want to regulate all the bars and prostitution and have that in your city? No. Wouldn't you rather have that all handled over there and take a percentage and not have to see it? Don't worry about it.
Gotcha.
That all happens in the shanties, which is, but they don't allow that, across the river, to the north in the mountains and everything else. That's all a defensive buffer to the north and farmland and to the east, you have the caravans. The caravan masters, all get whipped up, and then the horse tribes make a business of being caravan guards and big things of animals. Flocks of animals get driven, cattle drives and things to get bought and sold over there. But they don't hold any truck for bullshit on the eastern banks.
Uh-huh.
That's more of a legit enterprises going on over there between very tribal, esteemed, clans of people. People that run the caravans, people that guard caravans, the animal drovers, all of that is pretty much on the up and up.
Gotcha. So where that stuff happens, that's on the east side near Templeton, but
right.
Not part of Templeton.
Right.
Okay. So the shanties on the west side,
Yeah.
are are they surrounded by, say, a secondary offshoot of like protective wall, so that if somebody ever went to war with Tradeton, they would they would come up to some kind of a blockade in the shanties, or they would just take over the shanties?
The shanties can have a wooden palisade,
Hmm. All right,
but then there's some inner wooden palisades. There's layers to it.
gotcha.
Any army going into there people would have to defend themselves because you're pushing them into the river.
Right.
So you can imagine. Ever see the pictures of Rio de Janeiro?
Some.
If you ever look at the neighborhoods, the barrios there, that are all made with totally unregulated construction.
Hmm.
You can imagine, semi-retired adventurers and fixers and wizards and people that whatever, all create their own little compound.
Yeah.
You know, and if you were going to invade and go through there, well, it would cause a problem. It's a good soak up buffer zone thing.
Hmm.
But there'd be a couple rings. I would imagine the bridges have their own little castleettes at the end
Uh
with
huh.
their own perimeters. And then there's probably a couple of growth ring type wooden palisade, mud and wood palisade type walls, uh, in concentric rings going out.
Hmm.
So there's like the old shanty parts of the oldest stuff would be near the bridges that go over, and then it gets younger as it goes out.
Right.
You know, if me and you wanted to start selling blue teary, unregulated health potions, um, we could start a little shack or a wagon and go to the shanties and pay somebody some protection money and get a little booth in a part of the town where other people sell their potions, and we would be in business.
All right.
And we wouldn't be unregulated. We're just instead of you're paying off somebody, either legitimately buying booth space and paying protection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's, you know,
So tell me about the docks. The docks as a district. I'm assuming it's probably going to have a lot of warehouse right next to it.
yeah. So if you imagine there's a big V, right, and you got the eastern docks and the western dock,
Okay.
and then it goes out to the ocean, at the bay there. Um, so I imagine that the rivers are different colors, sort of the Ohio and whatever
Uh huh.
together, and you can see the line in the bay and all that. The brown water from one river and gray blue water from the other. You've been to cities like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's um, all manner of shipbuilding, ship repair, everything happening in the docks. Hire a ship and then sell a ship, buy a ship, hire a scurvy crew, go to the Isle of Dread.
Hmm.
There's the river peoples. So depending on there's a couple iterations of D&D where hobbits are travelers. They turn the hobbits into gypsies,
Uh huh.
and they travel in caravans or on boats and things. So that would fit with the city. But uh, I imagine that there would be you could put some Southeast Asian raft people out there in the bay.
Hmm.
There might be people that never really go on land. It's not that safe, so they construct little raft houses or live on boats, and they're fishermen, and they never really go on land. There's plenty of cultures that do that. If you don't like your neighbor, you move your boat.
Right.
So it would be a funky, multicultural D&D New York City harbor.
Hmm.
Be the best way to explain.
Okay. Um, So in the map, and I'm trying to pull it up. In the map that I remember of Tradeton, you've got the two rivers that come together,
Yep.
and then the river just kind of goes south
Yep.
off the map, and that goes down to a bay or a sea of some sort. Is that correct?
Yeah, depending upon the game, I made them come together right at the coast of the ocean,
Uh huh.
where they came together and left as one river.
Okay.
That's something we need to decide. It's probably more fun, rule of cool to have the rivers come together and then have a bay right there going out to the ocean,
Hmm.
and you just put this city wherever you want to in your game.
Hmm. Okay. Cool deal. Um, Talk to me about the Shires. Now, the Shires is that fertile triangular area with the mountains at the top and then the two rivers on the other side, and that's where a fair amount of the food for Tradeton comes from that doesn't come in via other trade locations. Um,
Right. There's there are the lands owned and run and farmed by Templeton, which is east of the city.
uh-huh.
So the various monastic orders and whatever they have land and they hire share farmers and stuff.
Hmm.
So they're like their own fiefdom, and they have their own lands claimed around Templeton Farm and things. But then there's north of the city. Remember where it's like a piece of candy corn. You have Templeton at the tip, and it gets wider as it goes north. And then you have arable land, and then the hills start, and they have a series of little forts there, and that's the northern border of Templeton.
Uh-huh.
The city state of Templeton. Again, it serves a couple of purposes. You patrol it. You have farmers. They raise crops. And also, it's a buffer zone so that if someone tries to invade you from the north, you have some warning, right, and some time.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what the shires are.
Okay. Um, and then what is the wards?
The real power is the merchant families, and the merchant families have their own sections of town.
Hmm.
Um, the different wards are different. The first concept of Trade Town for me was a D&D version of Cyberpunk.
Okay.
So the corporations run it. Instead of corporations, I had trade guilds. And the next thing I did to make it funky was that you couldn't just walk around in shining plate mail with a two-handed sword and trade. I wanted to make it difficult. So to keep the peace, everyone's allowed to have a dagger because it's meat with a dagger. It's basic self-defense. Everyone can carry a dagger. You know what I mean? It's a basic thing.
Yeah.
But nothing bigger than a dagger in town. Who should be able to? Well, who can afford to? Who do we trust? Merchants. So it's a way to make money and keep the peace. Where if you have the money, you can hire guards and you can afford the licensing, these wax seals, and things,
Hmm.
these marks on stuff, so that your guys can wear armor and have big weapons. Because they break the seal, they got to pay breach of the peace tax. So every time you draw your sword, it costs 15 gold. Right? And that helps pay for judges and things and law enforcement. So even though you have a sword license, if you draw it, that costs money.
Okay.
And there could be a judgment and things that happen. And if you drew it and didn't break the rules, you would get that money back. But you understand how that keeps the peace in a mercantile way?
Oh, for
Right?
sure.
Right?
Yep.
So, and it creates restrictions. It makes people inventive. And they say, oh, I'm going to spend all this money and make my chainmail invisible. It helps. You know what I mean? It helps. It's a role playing thing. How am I going to get around this?
Uh-huh.
So if you want to be operators in town and have good weapons, you have to hide them. And you have to be careful. You can't be murder hobos. You have to think about stuff because your targets have a lot of money, which means their people have good equipment that they can wear openly. You can't do that, so you have to be smarter and look at different things to do. So that's the concept of the wards, is that you can imagine all the different powerful families have their own sections of town, basically.
I see.
Town Watch is very professional because they're very well funded. It's a very nice, safe place to come and do business. Oh, business. So you're not running into the unprofessional flunking town guards that you're used to on these other D&D games. There's plenty of semi-retired, retired adventurers that are bodyguards / watchmen in Trenton.
All right. We'll probably want to eventually name some of those families in the wards. I won't hit you up for any of those right now, unless you know any off the top of your head.
No, I wanted to do some research into Venice,
Mm-hmm.
where they have all the Venetian horse racing and all the different old families,
Yep.
and look at Catan and Venice and things,
All right.
and the Medicis and stuff like that. And you know what I mean? There's a lot of European trade guild stuff.
Yep.
Create the different. You definitely need to create the different houses because they're power blocks that you can manipulate against each other and role playing opportunities.
Yeah, that sounds
But
good.
they're a bunch of scheming bastards. I mean, it makes it. We're going to start with go rescue a princess, and everyone's going to be like, oh, okay, let's go rescue a princess. Yay! And the princess rescues herself, and they say, fuck off. That's your introduction to Trade Town. There's no problem anymore. What do you mean? She's free. We don't need you. She's back. Hey, don't worry about it. What do you mean, don't worry about it? Someone, killed 3 guards. Well, guards. That dose of reality,
Uh-huh.
We'd rather just have things going on peacefully. She's back. Don't worry about it, guys. Here, have a glass of wine. So that's are they the mafia? Are they just business people? No, they're medieval merchants. They're some of the most ruthless bastards on the face of the earth that ever existed.
Yes, I don't have anything in here on any organized crime families, so that would be nice. So the New Moon Market.
They had to make laws that you couldn't put chalk in bread. Right?
Yes.
That's ancient stuff. Bad food, and all the food purity laws are for unscrupulous bastards trying to make a buck. Watering down milk. Everything.
That's a good point. New Moon Market, a great bazaar where you can trade money and gold for magic. Or I'm sorry, money and magic items for different magic items, unless you're truly desperate.
Right. That I would also like to stipulate that the entrance requirements to the market is having magic items. I want to be seen as sort of a subculture club, where it's usually never about putting down enough coin and just buying something. You know, um, it should be important and be the sort of money plus item trade up sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
That's sort of the feel of it, or at least the paradigm that I want to create when a bunch of characters are first of all, I'm making a whole. I went out of my way to make a whole bunch of mild, low-level magic items that are really pretty cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sort of like the Medusa thing. You could be a sister of Medusa, a Medusan, but not the Medusa, right? So you really need to call it like a frost brand or a flavor. How about it's a regular sword, but it's magic, of course, but the damage class is cold. So it does the same damage as a short sword, but it's not slashing damage or piercing damage. It's cold damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to, and that's very useful. That is magic, but it's not nearly as overpowered and wacky as saying, "Oh, it's a regular sword and it's intelligence 13, and it adds all this extra cold damage and has charges and things." Simple, straightforward magic items can be good and easy to remember, and not overpower the game immediately.
Mm-hmm. Plus two-handed flame tongue. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay, got to get it. So the New Moon Market takes place in a different spot every time. It has different ways to get there that changes so that like the place can't get raided.
Right.
Any other things you want to tell me about that I could write up?
The other part of the backstory
Mm-hmm.
that I had, which you need to discuss whether you want to keep that or not, is that the people of Traden that come here and they've left and have created on the frontier, and is that there were wizards, and everyone belonged to different. Wizards used to be like royalty, the Wizard King, and they overthrew them, and these people left. So the reason that wizards are allowed to be advisors but not hold positions of power, and the reasons they can build a tower but not a keep, and all that, is because that in this culture, wizards are highly regulated, not trusted, and magic is seen as bad for business and not trustworthy. No one wants to get a bag of magical coins that disappear at the end of the night, right?
Right.
So magic is even more highly regulated than weapons in the city.
Yes, you have to get a permit or a license to do magic in the city.
It's sanctioned, recognized.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like the American Medical Association, they decide who gets to be a doctor. So they're going to keep it as profitable as possible, which means they can't let anybody do magic in the city.
Right.
So heavy fines and things for doing unregulated magic within the city limits. So that anti-trustworthiness of wizards and wizarding people is definitely part of the DNA of the city.
Plus, it would only take one poorly placed or one misread fireball scroll or poorly dealt with fireball in the middle of the city to take a big city like Tradeton with close packed buildings in certain places down, for sure.
Yeah. I would have to think that we need to have a god or goddess of trade be the official patron of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Have clerics of the trade walk around doing detect magic and keeping things mundane.
And
Like the only church allowed in Trayton is the church of money, of trade. The other religions have to have their temple someplace else.
In one of the little encounters that I have written in this so far, and we can poo poo it or kill it. I'm only bringing this up because you're talking about it. So I say that the the nobles who are in the city, like, they've got a lot of clout, but they don't have a lot of money. They've just lived there a long time.
Yep.
And they're really angry at the merchants because the merchants have all the money. And they catch wind that the merchants are going to try to use a new form of currency to try to trade. And that really makes the nobles mad because, whose face is going to be on the money? What if they don't want to give it to the nobles? And the whole thing has to do with trying to introduce in one place a letter of marque, so they don't have to carry around 30,000 gold coins.
Right.
Would something like that fly in the face of Tradeton as it exists? Is that something that would be worth role playing out, or is that something that's going to cause too many problems?
No, I think the more interesting medieval historical conflicts that we bring into it,
Mm-hmm.
like that whole thing with the Cobblers Guild holds an election instead of promoting the old guy,
Mm-hmm.
and how cobblers people suspected of being these new age hippie assholes that they call them cobblers. Are you a cobbler? Are you one of those people that believe in democracy and letting people vote instead of the old ways? All that stuff. If we just redress it in Trayton, it's all very, very nice role playing stuff. There's all kinds of hooks for adventures there.
Mm-hmm.
You might get hired to protect, a bunch of cobblers, or assassinate the cobbler, or find dirt on another candidate before the election,
Mm-hmm.
And
that sounds great.
All the letters of marque, the whole credit system and usury fees, and who gets to charge usury, and usury fees, which is the medieval word for interest.
Mm-hmm.
That was outlawed by the church, and the Jews did it. If you had money, you were a bank. So if the Jews stuck together and had money, they didn't believe in these weird coins that other people trade for. They held gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And gold was the international standard. So you might have some stamped coin from a city-state, but who knows how much gold is in, right, Tyler?
Right.
But if you're holding gold, you're holding gold, right? So if you end up with a lot of money, someone's going to ask you to borrow it. It's just a natural evolution of things.
Right.
And then you get letters of marque, so you have to carry it around. And that's why you have trade guilds. It's a recognized thing. I go to this merchant. I mean, they still do it in the Middle East. There's I forget the name of it, but I read about it in these terrorism books. They move money around from rich guy to rich guy. And they all know each other. Right?
Hmm.
So you're a rich guy in Dubai, and I'm a rich guy in Syria. I don't want to officially get caught moving money to my people. So I have this uncle talk to that uncle, and you're in Dubai and I'm in Syria. And hey, could you give me my friend here I'm with in Dubai has given me $2 million. When his other friend meets you in Syria, give him 1.5 million, and each of us makes $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
At either end, there's no official banking going on. It's two guys talking on a fucking satellite phone. But we've just moved a couple of $1 million.
Sounds good.
And then that's how they move money around. Because people just have it in different places, and they just talk to each other, and it's all this handshake stuff. It's a totally private banking system because they were disenfranchised, broken as a people, but things still have to work. And when all your banking institutions are shit, and you can't trust the printed money, rich people hold on to money, and they work with other rich people, and they don't use the official system. Because the official banking systems in all these Middle Eastern countries are shit. Would you put your hard-earned money in a Syrian bank, or would you hold dollars or gold?
Well, in that order, if I could, yes.
But you know what I mean? It's something could happen, and you have fucking 8,000% inflation, and you know what I mean? It's gone. Fucking gone. So, in much the same way, banking would just happen organically in trade.
Right.
Someone will write somebody a letter and say, hey, my cousin here gave me 50 sheep, and when he shows up, give him the equivalent of 50 sheep. Please, thank you. See you at the festival. And do you have to travel with 50 sheep? No. You have a letter.
That's right. All right. Talk to me about the Great Market. The Great Market started as a circling of wagons, so it's rounded. Tell me anything more about that you'd like me to note in here.
There are concentric circles of stores.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of it, let's put a nice park.
Okay.
And we could put a park, and we could put like the theater district in the middle of the whole thing.
Okay.
So the theater district evolved from the entertainers' wagons being in the middle. So the restaurants and the theaters and the hippodrome or whatever are in the middle, and then the markets are around it.
Gotcha.
Circles.
Alrighty. Tell me about the Northern Wall.
If you can imagine the walled city-state of Trenton,
mm-hmm.
and then to the north of the city, well-groomed, nice, you have the old town, which is inside the big old walls, and then the new town, which is to the north, which is the new town. And then that has a wall, but not as grand. And then it has farmland out there with manses and things,
mm-hmm.
gentlemen farmers, vice counts, whatever, a couple vice counts. And then you have a patrol thing of forts right at the foot of the hills.
Gotcha. And those are the Northern Wall?
And the Northern Wall is a series of forts that are, patrols go between them in the road, and they have watchtowers with bonfires on top. If shit hits the fan, they can signal to the south.
Gotcha. All right.
So
excellent.
It's a nice place for retired adventurers to live. There's a fairly constant drip of bad stuff coming down out of the mountains. We are on the frontier.
Sure.
Right? So yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Talk to me about the Registered Magic Users Guild.
I would have to say that one way I fucked with characters is that healing magic was seen as necromancy because it dealt in life energy. So there's a very controversial ruling that healing magic was necromancy.
Okay. That's messed up.
Unless it's carried out by a cleric, because then it's healing energy from a god or goddess.
But who else would do it?
Magic users. Wizards.
Can they even do healing spells? Only a few.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, necromancy is right out. And magic users have to have sponsors.
Uh-huh.
And they're not allowed to own property inside the city. And they usually wear a sash. They're, recognized magic users.
Gotcha. So how do they determine who gets to be in the Magic Users Guild? Is that up to individuals or is it up to guild members?
Apprentices, every mage who reaches a certain level is allowed to have a certain number of apprentices. And then those apprentices, it's a journeyman / master type thing, like any other guild.
Uh-huh.
And every wizard is allowed to have 2 apprentices once they're a master wizard.
Gotcha. And so, is it? Let's say there's 2 people here in town. One is, let's say I'm rich and my nephew is a dunce. Can I pay for him to become an apprentice to a magic user? Or are there any kind of specifics that might stop that?
Well,
does money talk?
I mean, there are. I guess we need to come up with a term. I need to look it up, but I'm sure rich families paid to have their moron son pursue what they wanted to pursue, even though they weren't good at it.
Oh, for sure. That happened in real life. I just didn't know if it was something where it was like, is it the magician's choice who gets to be his apprentice? Is one assigned to them?
Look at it this way. Is it so bad having an apprentice who's a pretty nice guy but not that bright, but his parents pay all the bills for me?
Nope. Sounds fine for some people.
The kid gets to say that he's an apprentice wizard. I try to teach some cantrips and stuff. Okay. And,
well, could be a magic initiate who turns out to be a ranger. So he takes his magic initiate background and goes off as a variant human.
Yeah.
So I don't have any problems with that. I just wanted to know.
All the human frailties and real Machiavellian politics happen in trade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I want to make it as a book there and have these scenarios go on.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't just walk in there, like I said, in your split mail with your broadsword. You think, whoa, pal, you need a license for that. And God forbid you pull out a magic weapon in the middle of town, man. It's just...
well, while we're talking about that real quick, when we played, I never got to see it. Talk to me a little bit about the invisible magic weapons. So that was kind of an idea that you bandied about. Some people had seen them, but it was before my time. So that's something that's kind of new, that's pretty unique to this system. Could you tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind?
Sure. It's a very simple concept. You could probably Google it right now, but in 5th edition, I think you can make spells permanent.
Okay.
Right?
I don't know, but it sounds great.
People cast light on things and make it permanent. They permanently have a shield that, sheds light, so they never have to buy torches because they're fucking pricks. You know why? Torches. So,
Sure.
So the idea is simple. Oh, I'm not allowed to have a sword. I learn permanence. I go to a wizard. I go to the shanties and say, I really need to sneak a sword in here and kill this guy.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the shanties and they say, I've got an invisible short sword right here. You know, and he had a short sword covered in black paint. You know, when you chip off the black paint, it's fucking invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And so you buy an invisible short sword. You take off all the take all the paint off. It's fucking invisible. Don't drop it anywhere. You know.
Sure.
And besides it being invisible, it is not magic. It is a spell cast on it.
Uh-huh.
But it's a regular short sword that has been made invisible.
Gotcha.
And when you don't attune to it or anything, and it's difficult to use. You attack at disadvantage until you own it for a level, or blow a feat on use invisible weapon.
Uh-huh.
So, but you attack at advantage the first time you attack with an invisible weapon. Because if someone just makes a fist and reaches into their jacket and just like waves their fist at you, you're not expecting an invisible sword to cut your throat.
Certainly not.
Right? You're not.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's very surprising.
Talk to me about the White Guard of Templeton.
The White Guard of Templeton is made up of old, retired, headed up by old, retired paladins of the various orders from the various churches of Templeton.
Mm-hmm.
And they train up the guards, the lower guards, and it is seen as a place where they take people in, no questions asked, sort of like the French Foreign Legion.
Okay.
They take you in. They're really tough on you, but they feed you. They don't ask about your background, okay? And you're this impartial, keep the peace at any cost bunch of guards. You know, if two people are fighting, they're both wrong. You know?
Interesting.
No, so people do not fuck around in Templeton. Right?
I like it.
So, if you have your purse stolen, the thief is guilty of stealing from you, and you're guilty of having a big fat thing of gold coins hanging out.
Oh.
You're both wrong.
Okay.
So,
please continue.
So that's sort of a lawful, neutral, tilting towards good viewpoint of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a role-playing pressure where you can't just say, I'm a good guy. You know, no. you beat up a bad guy, you're both going to jail. You know, flogged, kicked out. You know.
I see.
And they protect the surrounding of the city, and they protect some of the pilgrimage routes. You know.
Excellent. Well, in one of the in one of the little side quests, I said that you could work with the White Guard of Templeton to try to get some information. One of the scenarios that I thought of was one of the temples in Templeton is getting hit by graffiti, and the White Guard are a little too a little too visible and a little too set in their ways to catch the people. And they ask for a little bit of help.
Right.
That scenario apparently probably not going to work out so hot. So we'll want to talk about that together.
But tell me the secret. Who's doing it and why?
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. So I said it was a nearby temple of what's the trickster, the magic using thieves? What do they call arcane trickster?
Yeah.
Arcane tricksters that were just trying to sow a little chaos in the hopes that they might get a little bit of boon from their god.
Yeah, there you go.
But
it might be an acolyte hazing thing.
Uh-huh.
Where they say, you have to go prove yourself and go write graffiti on this opposing goddess's wall or something.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's better than what I had. Good job.
No. But you know what I mean? That's why they would do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we know about the bards, and within the Bards Guild is the Assassins Guild.
Yes. So for most of these, I've gone through and done that. Why don't you go ahead and tell me about the Bards Guild, and then tell me about the Assassins Guild. Anything you want to say?
Well, there is a thing called the Peace of the Bard, or Bard's Peace, where not a lot of people can play music, and bards are valued, and everyone wants to hear a good song, and the bards are there to be ingratiated and sing songs about you if you're a good guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's, this, it's considered very bad luck and very bad manners to treat a bard badly, because they might write a bad song about you, dipshit,
Mm.
That's why you don't date, what's her face, Taylor Swift or whatever, because you date her and you're an asshole, and she writes this song about you, and all of a sudden everyone's humming this tune about how you have a small dick, So treat bards nicely, And bards have information, and they get places, they know people, and they can get you stuff, and there's fixers sort of things in the community. So they've been infiltrated by a group of assassins.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of them. Now they're regular. Now they do have levels in bard where they can sing or fake it, But they are also assassins. And just like the Assassins Guild for a big city, it only has to be a couple of people.
Yeah, I think I had written in here there were 3 of them in the Bards Guild.
Yeah, 3 of them, 3 assassins, perfectly good assassins. So you're at a party, there's a bard, and this bard's there, and you're sitting with the bard, and the bard's, and some guy says, "Oh, I'd love to fucking kill that guy." And he says, "Oh, I can arrange that for you. Do you have any money?" So, you don't. Oh yeah, I know a guy. Because they're, you know what I mean. So the bards are fixers, and that's one of the things they do. And it's all done by dead drops and things like that. So they don't even know. You think you're talking to the bard who knows a guy who knows a guy, but actually you're talking to the guy who is the guy. Right? And yeah. So they could get, and then there's the square beards, which I've used in different campaigns. I originally made the square beards in the Warhammer fantasy role playing game. Because the characters, they get a couple professions underneath them, and they get really powerful. So I made these dwarven assassins, dwarves who had their beards cut off, or squared. If you can imagine, grabbing somebody's beard and just cutting it right off, chwing, so their bottom is squared off on the bottom now. So shamed and thrown out of dwarf society. So now they're assassins, but they don't give up. They go after you in ones and twos. You know, you'll be in the wilderness and you'll be healing up, and you just crawl out of a fucking dungeon and you're all curled up, and you're gonna try to take that long rest, and fucking short beards show up again.
Nice.
You buy mithril armor, and they use mithril shot.
Oh man.
Anyway, you're gonna say something.
Well, if you want to keep talking about that, I'll definitely keep listening. Otherwise, I'll keep asking questions.
No, it was just you. When the players get more powerful, you have to have enemies and organizations that are recurring, so you're not working from whole cloth all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it a deeper, richer thing to do that. You know?
Right.
It's meaningful when you grievously injure a bad guy and he falls off the bridge, and the next time you see him, he's wearing an eye patch and missing an ear. And you're like, oh, I guess my magic missile took his eye out and blew his ear off. That's pretty fucking cool. But he comes back, like, oh, I wonder why this guy wants to kill me. Well, I know why he wants to kill me. I don't have to wonder. I killed his brother, and I blew half his fucking head off. I know perfectly well why he wants to kill me.
Treant seems to be pissed because I've made his nephew into firewood.
Yeah. I'm sitting in a chair made out of his mom.
Oh.
Why should he be mad at me?
Juris the Snake. His girlfriend or wife is a Medusa, a Medusan, the degenerate offspring of a Medusa, and also she is kind of the spy master of what's going on. Talk to me a little bit about her, and then about what she does with these spies. Is it just to find the movers and shakers, or the people with money? Talk a little bit about that if you can.
Okay, so the idea of a Medusan would be, game mechanic wise, is I want to have a Medusa in the game who can do Medusa stuff, but who doesn't straight up fucking TPK people.
Right. Jungle Bard kind of thing.
It's like, Jesus, tone it down a bit, would you? So imagine a half elf, but instead of being half elf, you're half Medusa.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Why not? Right? So she has hair, and slightly, she's incredibly beautiful because of the curse and stuff like that. But she does have snakes in her hair. So she has hair, and there are snakes in it.
Mm-hmm.
She can hide it. Right?
Yep.
And I need to figure out the mechanics of a toned down petrification ability, where she can do it, but it's a better save, or she has to be holding somebody.
Gotcha. So maybe something like 3.5, where the first save was a slow, and then second save, or something like that. Who knows? Something to think about.
Right.
All right. So talk to me about. So she's part of the scale, and right. You've mentioned in the past that she's the spy master. How does that work for her?
Well, her and her husband are. They want to take over the city. So, she wants to be. She wants to be a queen in her lifetime, and she wants to start out stealthily and then accrue all this political power, and then arrange it so her and her husband are seen as saviors of the city, and they're popularly put into a position of power. And they replace the feeble, decadent, fucked up, limp dick royalty they have right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they can take over the city, and then they can have all these resources, and and they can start, making, the place a stronghold of the scale on the continent. But, strike once, build up, prepare, strike once. That's the whole methodology.
Mm-hmm.
So, because they live a very long time, both of them,
Mm-hmm.
they can be patient and careful. They're not going to just, blow it. So that's why he just came into town. They're putting a network together. They're going to get the temple up and going. They're going to get this lands. Like any good political couple, they have a land scheme to get rich, which is a frog thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they're going to do it.
Okay. Who are her spies?
Good question.
They're so secretive, I don't even know.
Well, we have the bad guy. We have co-bad guys,
Mm-hmm.
right? Husband and wife, co-bad guy couple. And then we need to make up some lieutenants. Would make sense. And some spies.
Okay.
And they're not above using some of the roof runner type scum and villainy, garden variety stuff in the city to get stuff done.
I figured it would probably be, like the Thieves Guild is probably tight with her because she has non-Thieves Guild spies, so they can kind of do a little switching there. I thought maybe the Runners Guild. I don't know about the Teamsters; they seem a little lazy and surly. But the Runners Guild would probably be a good match for her. Maybe some of the bards or whatever. Bards are spies.
I'd like to make the Thieves Guild as cunning and dangerous and driven underground as possible.
Okay.
In a city of merchants, thieves are looked down upon the most.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, going into a bar and saying, I'm a thief, not something you do. and we really need to put that strong in there. I mean, there needs to be like iron cages that say thief with, the rotting bodies in them or cutting up people's hands or whatever. But in a city of commerce dedicated to the goddess commerce, thieving is the lowest thing you can do.
Uh-huh.
And stealing with magic would be like the worst possible thing you could do. To make something magically disappear and steal it, that would be the worst thing, worst thing you could do.
I see.
So, because that's one thing that did always bug me about Dungeons and Dragons, is there's, hey, how you doing? My name's Lance. I'm playing a thief. I'm a thief. You should bring me with you because I steal things. Hi, I'm a thief. It's just,
Don't worry, I know all the Thieves Guild sign and the Thieves Guild can'ts. I've got a organized crime background.
You can trust me. I'm a thief. You wouldn't say that.
I have I had two scenarios with the Thieves Guild. One of them was something was going to be stolen at Juris's house, and as the leader of the Thieves Guild leader gets an invite. So while he pays the party to rough him up and send him to a hospital while the thing is being stolen. So it looks like if it got stolen and he was there, everybody would see that he got beaten up and he was not there when it happened. So I might be able to work something with that, make it a little nicer. And the other one was that the thieves knew a lot of wealthy people who were tired of regular games and had kind of like a party versus other thieves in kind of a most dangerous game situation, betting on people fighting each other in the urban area and trying not to get caught by the guards and stuff. So anyway, it might be nice to kind of round some of those things out once you come back to town.
Yeah, I think it's a nice. I mean, I've been doing it for a while. I mean, but people, you've been there through a couple of times. People tend to, it is sort of different, isn't it? I mean, people tend to enjoy it, I think.
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely good. I like where everything is going, man.
But there's a grand sister, I think, in Constantinople.
Uh-huh.
And it was featured in a James Bond movie.
Okay.
And it's really hokey, where they go on a boat in the cistern, and there's all these huge pillars going up from the water. And then they go to this place, and there's a submarine periscope was installed underneath the Soviet embassy, so you could like put an up periscope and look around inside the embassy. It's really fucking hokey. But the cistern scenes are real, and the pillars are made of stones from demolished temples. So some of the stones are these flattened off heads of statues of these gods they don't worship anymore. Uh-huh. It's fascinating, and it's this huge like underground lake with these pillars in it. It's just for a city. And I thought, wow, what a great place, what a great location, you know?
That sounds awesome.
You can look that up. I have to remember the city, but you can look up like James Bond periscope or whatever, and it'll show the scene of the cistern. You can imagine a big underground lake, like a cave of water in it, you know, black water. And then you have a torch, and there are these pillars, and the pillars are all blocks salvaged from other temples, you know, that are holding up the ceiling.
Uh-huh.
And they have all these like rude faces and carvings and things. But it's a really fun location. You know, and just the idea that, you know, the whole magic item thing is just, it's tough in D&D to make magic magical.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes special things special. You know why you know somebody made something and really cared about it to make it magic. It has a purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a science fiction book called Room 23. I think it's Room 23, where some schism happens in the universe, and this guy's a traveling salesman with a glass eye or whatever, and all of his possessions and him become sort of like magic items. So there's an ace comb, and when you put it through your hair, time stops for a couple of seconds, for example. So they're all of his personal possessions turn into these weird magic items. All this sort of purpose. And they're all, if you have one of the items, you're drawn to the other items, right? Uh-huh. And you become part of this secret subculture of artifact gatherers trying to figure out how they were created and their purpose, and did God make them? You know, all these different factions happen. Right? And I just thought it'd be cool to treat magic items where there's just two kinds of people in the world, Tyler. People that have magic items and people that don't. And once you're holding a magic item, something can change in you, you know? You attune to it, and there's a tuning and things. You just can't pick stuff up. And a tuning was invented, so you just can't have a toolbox of magic items, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can be attuned, really use certain, they become part of you, and you're channeling mana and all that. Attunement is a power balance thing. So you can't just go, oh, it's a frost giant, flame sword. Oh, it's a, you know, just choose the appropriate magic item. So you have to choose carefully and trade up and things like that. So you can't hoard them, right?
Uh-huh.
So when you have a magic item in the universe, I want you to feel like it might be it's just a +1 dagger. Well, no, that dagger has a history and a personality and a purpose and maybe a story arc of its own. And if it's magical and traveling around in the universe, and you found it, that there's a reason for it. It's not just a +1 dagger. You know, if you're carrying the Frost brand of Ringer, people sing songs about that fucking sword. So that sword was the spear tip of a frost giant that humans turn into a sword. And that poor, bitter borderland prince from the old kingdoms who put his mom in a tower and killed his relatives to be, I forget exactly the story, but you know what I mean. It was sad medieval. I mean, you could go look it up right now. I'm sure there's at least 2 or 3 princes that did that, right?
Yes, for sure.
At least a couple, right? And maybe he just wanted to be a bard, but he couldn't because he was born a prince, so he had to do it. Yeah, it's just a short sword that does cold damage. It's a frost brand.
I'm sorry, I thought you said colon. I was like, damn, it's just a short sword that does colon damage.
Hey.
Yes, it certainly could. Well, look, I've had you on the phone here for about an hour and a half, so I'm gonna harass you for a couple more minutes, and then I'll let you get back to your fine evening, if that's okay. Or do you need me to let you go so you can use the bathroom, eat, drink, etc.?
I am just sitting here in an easy chair in a dark room in a strange city, bored as fuck. So don't worry about me.
Oh, okay. Well, we can keep talking. So, player actions and scale reactions. We have an NPC who's killed by a poison dart, and the characters have to investigate who did it. Tell me a little bit about how you think that might shake out. Frog dart, I think, was what you said.
What you're going to find out is that you have to take a live frog and gently pass it over a flame, and it'll produce these drops of poison from its gland. And then you need to put those droplets on whatever you're poisoning, and then carefully dry the poison over the flame. And then it's good for 12 hours, 15 hours. But the poison oxidizes and loses its power. So who's ever using this poison has access to live tropical poison frog. And you're in a semi-arid steppe. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. So where might that lead the characters to? Probably to an alchemist or a magician to find out about the frog poison. And then from the frog poison to where?
So,
asking around who might have it, who might have seen it. We do kind of talk about Juris the Snake selling tropical birds and tropical fruit that he can pull from the portal.
Right. And they're like, oh, he's your it's from the tropics, and Juris would be the person that would know, but that's not, you want to get pulled a bit. So it would lead to him. It also leads you to have cognitive dissonance. You're in the semi-arid, near desert, thing. It's not scorpion poison, right? It doesn't come from the Underdark. It doesn't come from, it's not just goblin poop. It's someone took the time and effort to put this on a poison dart. So we're looking for this like jungle tribal enemy coming after us. You know, that's the whole intent of it. You know?
Gotcha.
So we need to have a city pursuit minigame in there.
Okay.
You're going to want to blend into the crowd and people are going to come after you. And you're going to want to chase people through crowds and over rooftops and through the city.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to have a nice mechanic for that.
Alrighty.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to, getting lost and all that stuff like that. But the Thieves Guild, again, really needs to be, when people get close to it, they really need to shut the fuck up and be a thief. You know, you need to drive that home very quickly.
Right.
I'm an adventurer. I'm a carpenter. I am a swashbuckler. I am,
Mm-hmm.
No one just says, what did Bilbo Baggins say he was? He was an adventurer, right? He didn't say he was a thief.
Right. Definitely didn't say he was a burglar. That was somebody else's idea.
Yeah. Right. You're the burglar, go burgle something. But, yeah. So.
All right.
We need to put the grittiness. There should be grittiness in there. And if the players murder hobo stuff in town, then the guards show up and beat the fuck out of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a section in the front that talks about the Tradeton police and getting caught, and they're gonna want to get results for those situations dealt with fast.
I would say Trade Town justice would be, if you can't afford the fine, then they put you in indenture, which means they auction off your time to a merchant or service guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to work off your fine. So you could end up shoveling shit for a pong farmer because you smuggled a short sword into town, and then just having it would, you'd lose the sword.
Mm-hmm.
You'd get fined. If you couldn't afford the fine, there'd be an indenture period to work your fine off,
mm-hmm.
right? And then they might kick you out of town.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It might even directly address murder hoboing, like in a paragraph, like,
mm-hmm.
what if our players are murder hobos? Okay. This is what happened.
All right. So yeah, under what kind of justice can they give? Is it something they're going to give on the spot? So here's what I wrote, and then help me clear it up. Tradeton is a large city based on trade and common laws. Disputes are frequent. Results are swift for those without access to lawyers. Guards are always on patrol and frequently standing guard outside important buildings and locations like fountains and markets, large and small. City guards are often standing on street corners, resting in common rooms of inns and taverns. In situations where clear lines can be drawn between guilt and innocence, guards may choose to mete out justice on the spot. In situations where judgment must be passed, guards may chain the culprit and drag them off to be judged. And then my question was, what kind of judgment can they give on the spot besides a traffic smitation? Loss and fine.
The captain of the watch would dispense with any non-important people.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't rise to the level of magistrate or whatever. People fighting in bars or petty theft or whatever, that gets met out like by the captain of the watch.
Okay. Great.
Higher public crimes, or petty crimes carried out by important people with clout in town get passed up to the magistrate. You know.
Awesome. Okay. Then this.
It's a meritocracy. It's it's a lot. If I steal an apple, it's different whether I steal an apple or you steal an apple. Okay. It matters who you are.
Excellent. So then, based on what we were just saying, if you're a murder hobo, then what?
If you're a murder hobo and you draw the blood of a city guard, the sentence is death.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that even with a punch, or is that with a weapon?
That's simple. You draw the blood of a city guard, you're done.
Okay. Gotcha. What kind of a judgment comes down from? Well, this says from a judge, but from a magistrate or a captain. Let's say it was something bigger.
Usually, it's fines, and if you have a lot of money, you can get out of a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you become an indentured. You work off your fine, and then they kick you the fuck out.
Okay. So let's say I am the son of a. Let's say I'm a merchant, and I've got a fair amount of money, and I have a partner that doesn't. And the two of us are fined because we're breaking the food purity laws. I'm putting chalk in water and calling it milk.
Whose name is on the charter? The license to sell milk.
Mm-hmm.
They might lose the license to sell milk.
Okay.
They might be fined if they're caught adulterating the stuff. Mm-hmm. They might be put in the public stocks to be humiliated with a big sign over their head about what they did.
Okay.
Sure. They might be fined so much that they have to sell their license to somebody else to afford the fine.
Mm-hmm.
They go to jail.
Gotcha.
I mean, the last vestige of this sort of stuff, Tyler, is before we had the gig economy. There were only so many tags for taxis in New York.
Uh-huh.
And they went up for auction. Right? So every taxi only wanted so many taxis in town, so they sold these badges for taxis that had to be bolted onto the taxi. You can still see them in New York. And they became like a secondary currency, right? Because if you had a cab company, you could only run as many cabs as you had tags.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's like the last vestige of that sort of medieval bullshittery, So why run a taxi company if you aren't sure you're going to make money? So it runs both ways. It limits the number of taxis, so you get to charge more, but the city regulates how much you can charge and regulates how many taxis there are. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then Uber comes along and blows them out of the fucking water.
Is imprisonment an option in Tradeton? I didn't see or hear us ever talk about prisons except for happenstance.
Prisons don't make anybody any money.
Uh-huh.
So there's the jail where people await judgment, and they typically indenture people and banish them or kill them.
I see.
Or put them in the stocks. But there's no great big dungeon full of hundreds of fucking people serving 15-year sentences or whatever. They don't do that.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. That makes a lot of sense. A bag of snakes thrown into the PC room if they're starting to get too close.
Right.
How do you see that playing out?
Well,
And you can spitball.
it matters when the snakes get put in.
Say, is it something that would happen at night? Is it something that would happen while they're just kind of sitting in there? Do they know what it is?
I killed one PC by having an assassin who had a couple trained vipers,
Mm-hmm.
and they're in the alley, going from bar to bar, having a great time, and the person just walked up, and the viper was wrapped around his arm, and had the vipers bite the guy, and then walk back into the crowd. Yeah, snakes showing up in bad places. You open the drawer in the morning, it's a snake in it, boom, it bites you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
letting loose a bunch of poisonous snakes, and they seek warmth, and you're in bed and asleep. And snakes are pretty stealthy. You can wake up in the morning and there's snakes in your bed.
That would not be good.
It's all good stuff.
What about the PC room filling with water? What are your thoughts on that?
That is the idea of the high priest who control water and stuff, and the idea that I like the juxtaposition of fucking with people, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a desert game, and you're in a desert trade city, you know, and the door to your room is shut, and you're gonna fucking drown. It's just weird, you know. you know, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It's just sort of funny. You seal up the room and fill it up with water, and to pass strength checks and things, and beat the door down, and all this water comes out. People are like, what the fuck? You know?
All right, let me see if there are any other things in here that I wanted to talk with you about specifically for the moment. So the vampire that comes to Tradeton. Now,
he's a resident vampire.
mm-hmm.
So I was going to have a vampire run. It depends on how adult the game is.
Okay.
Vampire run a gambling den / brothel.
Mm-hmm.
Or simply run a theater, you know, the theater of the night.
Sure.
And he wears all this makeup, you know, and he's a real vampire pretending to be possibly a vampire in a very campy way, you know, to run this avant-garde theater. But he actually isn't. So it's imagine sort of a creepy Cirque du Soleil show, you know, dancers and jugglers and things like that. But it's the theater of the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a little naughty, it's a little cool, you know. It's the hip thing to do, and yeah, there's rumors about him being, you know, whatever, and it just adds to the mystique of everything, you know. So he runs like these shows that turn into sort of raves in different, you know, places in the city, you know, like being in crowd to know where the next one is, you know.
Ah.
And he's just a bohemian dude, that's all. And it's his territory.
So tell me about that part just for a second there. So we've got this guy. He's a vampire. He's pretending to be kind of a bit of a campy vampire. So the PCs might hear, "Oh, have you checked out the Circus of the Night?" And then they go there. There's a guy. He looks like a regular guy trying to look like a vampire. And they see him doing all of his shtick. That's at a location that is static. But then he's also doing these other little things in like pop-up party locations kind of thing. Is that what you were saying there?
I would say for his own security, for the ability to disappear and be safe,
Mm-hmm.
and to control who goes to his soirees, that the locale of the Circus of the Night would keep changing.
Okay. That makes sense.
And his, holy of holy catacombs where he has his sarcophagus would be tucked away somewhere.
Right. So then as he gets mixed up with Juris the Snake, and is there a name for the deviant Medusa?
We have to come up with a good one.
Okay, I'm willing to hear that. As he gets mixed up with them, there's possibilities that the characters could run into him at the Dark Buffet. Is the Dark Buffet something that's going to be part of this,
Yeah,
or is it just kind of like an inside party for the in crowd?
that's the inside party for the actual evil people.
Gotcha. So the after party for the after party. All right, cool.
That's actually the after party, the after party, the after party.
Oh,
So there's the party, then
uh-huh.
there's the people he's duping,
Mm-hmm.
then there's the people in the know.
Gotcha.
So the people in the know that guy's a vampire and that he's an evil high priest, and I'm not really an adventurer. I'm an ex-adventurer, but I was an evil one. And my wife's has snakes. That's the real, inner circle. And they see themselves as the new royalty and privy council of the city.
Uh-huh.
They're just gonna put this team together and take over the city.
Gotcha. And so and then the vampire will be part of that, or they're trying to get him just as a power play, or
Well, he's really good with rats. So if you want to go follow somebody and sneak in someplace and see what's going on,
mm-hmm.
he can send his rats.
Gotcha.
And he probably knows and works with some were rats. And I toyed about making it all full circle and making the Assassin's Guild, the bards, all were rats.
Interesting. Alrighty. Let's
or
see.
at least one of them.
Uh-huh. So, and then I'll ask you this other question here, which is when the module ends, are there any places that you see play being able to go easily? I've pulled a couple, but I just want to see if you had any thoughts.
Well, of course there are catacombs under the city.
Uh-huh. Tell me more.
I would have to say that it would have Trade Town built on the remnants of one of the wizards' towers that they overthrew, and that the dungeons of that tower are still down there somewhere or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there could be trade going on with the Underdark, and there could be a connection nearby with the Underdark and trade.
All right.
A trade mission from the Underdark comes up and wants surface goods from Trade Town. how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly hire on as a guard on a barge. You can hire on as a caravan guard. You can do bad things in the shanties to bad people. Depending what movie rating of a campaign you want to do.
Alrighty.
Slavery and drug dealing and God knows what else.
What do you think that the players or the city of Tradeton will do with the moat once it's all said and done? This is not assuring that the moat makes it to Tradeton, or that the just if the characters kill destroy the frog god temple,
Right.
there's clearly the possibility of a larger army that was going to come in and take over. But a group of, let's just say a massive group, 12 fighters, rush the moat and smash the temple down to the ground. And let's say they even had 4 wizards casting that thunder spell
Oh Jesus.
and blasting people into the night. There's probably still a couple of thousand lizard people running around up there. What if anything do you think might happen with the moat, or could be a possibility to discuss after the adventure ends? Do you have any thoughts on that? It's okay to say no, or you'd like to think about it some more.
It could fall
Mm-hmm.
and be a big shit bomb, and it could probably wander off, not being drawn or controlled anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You just wander off.
All right, cool. So I put a couple of thoughts on the moat and what to do with that kind of at the end of the adventure. Just because we don't have to, because the moat is such a big sandbox.
The Jerry Bruckheimer thing to do is to blow everything up once you're done with it.
That would also be cool.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm. So I figure we'll leave a portion of the moat unmapped, and
Right.
You could have the dwellers of the Forbidden City up there. You could have the Sojcanth up there. You could have part of the Isle of Dread up there.
Well, I think the moat was a good idea to do a little mini hex crawl.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that, dude.
So
Yeah.
have them hex crawl the moat, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's
Yeah.
just fucking weird. Just the flightless bird thing on the really weird shit.
Well, I think there's a lot of cool stuff, but there's dinosaurs on the moat, so there's no reason why there couldn't be another frog god portal to the Isle of Dread. It might explain how the dinosaurs got there. But
Right.
it could also be that they make the moat over near Tradeton, and then they try to
Well,
mine the magical stones off of it, or throw the trees all off the side. Who knows? Well, anyways,
Can you look up making spells permanent with that?
yeah. So I was looking at that earlier, and some of it, a lot of people suggest making it a downtime activity. There's not really a spell for permanence. And so one of the things that a lot of people say they're trying to make it work because they want to make Wish do that. But it looks like here it says it's a 5th level enchantment. Casting time 1 action. 5e permanency 5 level 5th level enchantment. But you got to be level 9 to 11 to do most of these spells. Some of them look like they get higher.
Spells to be made permanent must have a base duration of 8 hours.
I'm
That's
sure
what
you
they're
could.
suggesting.
I'm sure you could get around that. But I mean, detect magic is a spell that you can make permanent, but that doesn't have 8 hours minimum.
Yeah.
Or tongues, or some of these other ones that are on this D&D wiki. Some of them have like wall of fire.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, it's a 5th level spell, so I think
Right.
you could play around with that some. And we do have the wizard cloak and hat with the permanent prestidigitation spell. Like, it just kind of heals itself and cleans itself.
Well, if you were an adventuring wizard, that was a little bit OCD. You would cast prestidigitation so often that it would just become permanent, right?
Probably so, yes.
You know, I mean, who wants a wet hat?
I'm going to say not me.
But yeah, I mean, I think if you have a spell and you cast it every day from one moon to the next,
Mm-hmm.
you make it permanent. Um, and if you blow a bunch of items and enchant something and inscribe it or whatever, you could put a permanent thing on it. It makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Um, again, it's about burning up money and time and making things personal and um, yeah, it's just nice. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Sick of buying torches, you know. Yeah, you know. Pretty good, but yeah, I mean, do you want to make a sword of wounding? Well, okay, you need to know how bad of a wounding spell you need to cast, and then you cast permanents and things, and so you get a master crafted short sword, and then the wounding, cure, cause light wounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you pass your arcana checks and stuff, and you create a sword of wounding. You know, it would make perfect sense. You just need a logical sequence of things. And I mean, what's an arcana skill for? Why should I go into the shanties and find all the different ingredients? Why am I searching for a 1,000 gold piece perfect blue diamond? Because I
Mm-hmm.
need it for a fucking spell. You know.
Well, you better watch out, dude. You shouldn't be sharing this stuff with me. I'm a power gamer,
Oh yeah, you're a wicked power game.
and I take advantage of you all the
Yeah.
time. Next time, I'm.
Do you think I almost killed Brad fair and square?
Oh yeah,
Or think he
I
was
think I almost killed Brad fair and square. He would have been pissed as hell at me for a really long time.
Well, what am I supposed to do when you go over and try to heal him and you roll a 1?
I rolled a 0. I got a 1 minus
Oh, that's
1.
right.
Yeah, and don't worry, it happened 3 times that game.
Fucking, not just a 1, you rolled a 0. And I said, well, that's a D4 more damage. That
Yeah.
was being nice.
No, that was fair, dude. That was totally fair. That was 100% fair. And
If he blew something, I critted him with a zombie.
yeah, man, that's what are you gonna do? He was he only had so many hit points,
Right.
and
And
he was already way down. Then I came up and hurt him. That wasn't gonna work.
zombie critted him, and then you thought you were helping him by pushing the pot in further and pulling it out the other side.
Yeah,
That's bad.
that was not working out for me, man.
You just tear all these tentacles out of your guts. Probably the best thing to do is just yank on them.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking very forward to tomorrow's game. And I know that in about an hour you're probably going to be heading down to bed, and I'm going to have to hop off here because my wife is giving me the get out of the bedroom. Uh,
Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't know if we're playing tomorrow, but I'll be around.
Oh, that's right. We're not playing tomorrow.
I
Well,
don't. We could powwow if you want.
all right. Well, you're working tomorrow, and then are you coming home on the 23rd? Did you say?
23rd is probably going to be my travel day.
All right. Well, that's okay, dude. That's okay.
A beautiful 7.5 hour drive up over the Misty Mountains. West Virginia is beautiful.
Nice.
With clouds and tunnels, and it's a very interesting drive. But anyway, have a beautiful evening. You know where to find me.
All right, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate you doing this, and you get paid when you drive, right?
I get paid halvesies.
Okay. Well,
we split it up, so
that might not be too bad. All right, buddy. Well, look, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
You bet. Good night.
All right. Bye.